As I speak, Parler, a social media platform, is still not online. Parler was condemned to economic death by the deep tech overlords. Why? Simply because it has a different business model. Parler's business model is based on more free speech and not less of it. Deep tech, on the other hand, restricts speech so that it fits with its progressive and politically correct do or die rules. I use the term deep tech for big tech. Deep tech captures the power and reach into state and civil society of the high-tech monsters. In any case, the quislings and cowards, like Apple, Amazon, Facebook and Twitter, and many other vendors, all quickly appeared to collude in the attempt to financially destroy Parler, keep it offline. Such action flies in the face of the American pro-competition sensibility, and it goes against the spirit, if not the letter, of civil rights law by financially segregating, banishing, and crippling people and enterprises one dislikes. This has been the fate of Parler, temporarily we hope. A fate dealt to it by the Amazon web server Kickoff. What we're seeing from deep tech is deformed economic gigantism at its ugliest. In this context, I want to briefly plant or trigger some thoughts in your mind about deep tech's financial terrorism. In many cases, American big tech is verging on violating the very natural right to make a living. Many libertarian-minded and small government conservatives, I laugh here because it's a contradiction in terms, considering the national debt, is approaching 29 trillion. But people like David French, Justin Amash, Mike Lee come to mind. They have defended the rights of deep tech to deploy unprovoked financial force to kneecap users for no other reason than that we don't conform to the tech oligarchy's notion of the new ideal citizen. Those of us who routinely are blocked from being able to grow our appeal and peddle our intellectual products, and now are even fearful that our books will be digitally burned, we are told we should simply create platforms of our own. Just find other off-ramps, said a popular but not so controversial podcaster, David Rubin. Coming from the conformists who run Conservatism Inc., this cynical suggestion is the equivalent of, let them eat cake. In practice, it often means let political dissidents go dark or resort to a barter economy. You might not know it, but financial deplatforming by big banks has been a staple of many of America's dissident right. Financial deplatforming is when you are barred from banking or transacting via PayPal. For some on the right, email service is under threat too. Revolver News has called this an existential threat to free speech in America. This observation, it seems to me, trivializes what's happening and misses the point. Because what financial deplatforming does verges on violating the natural right of individuals to make a living. Telling people they can't open a bank account verges on informing your victims they might not be able to, make a living, despite the fact that they are innocent in natural law, their only offense being a thought crime, namely typing or wafting words into the air. How do you make a living if you can't bank or contact your clients electronically? Do you go back to a barter economy? A book for some bread? Do you go underground, cultivate home-based industries? Do you keep afloat by word of mouth, go door to door? Maybe go back to stamping envelopes? How can you when your client base is mainly electronic? To visit this kind of financial violence on another goes against the spirit again, if not the letter, of civil rights law, because You are financially segregating, banishing, crippling people and enterprises purely because you dislike them politically. Parler in one example. I hammer civil rights law not because I revere it, but because natural law is not what the establishment, left or right, cares about. But yes, our big tech enemies come at us in war, not in peace, and with economic aggression that can indirectly, slowly suffocate to an economic death. This, as conservatives, the conformist type, keep lecturing us to build our own platforms. Right. Parler was ever so confident the competition would be happy for its business. I was. For its confidence, Parler was subjected to a coordinated financial terrorism. It was dealt an undeserving, aggressive financial death knell, temporary we hope. The social media platform was right away robbed of its financial value, not by one politically driven aggressor, but by many, and even though it was not the aggressor in a dispute it did not pick. Let's be clear, Parler is innocent in natural law. It has not defaulted on its financial obligations, and it didn't defraud its users or vendors. Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Twitter all acted as one giant mind. These are entities with revenues greater than the GDP of 4 of the G20 nations. So when establishment conservatives preach to dissidents that we should look to create alternatives, they imagine mere mortals with limited means can fight multinationals that are collectively more powerful influences than most nation states. Needed, I suggest, is fresh theoretical thinking about the meaning of deep tech. Such thinking must begin with an understanding that we live and labor under tyrannical corporate statism, or tech-dominated statism. Free market capitalism remains, sadly, the unknown ideal.